Welcome to When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique Bond.
And I'm Dexter Perkins.
And we have a wonderful topic for this episode. We're going to be discussing a post that we've seen on Facebook. And we just thought, this would be a great topic for us to discuss as men. And, I was looking through and I seen all the comments about it. And I said, Dex, I think this would be, people are wilding out over this topic right here. Let's discuss this. We haven't discussed relationships and marriage in a while. We've been on, those of you that haven't been keeping up with us, we've been discussing I'm a man and I was molested. We've been on that series for the past I think about 5 weeks or so. And so go check that out. If you go catch up and look at that and check that out. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to pull up the post that we've seen. I'm going to read it out. We're going to bring it up a few times so everybody can look into it. But this brother, he was pouring his heart out, man. He was like, this is what I am looking for in a woman. It's all on you all to either agree or whatever the case may be that come up in your mind. But we're just gonna bring it up real quick, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Okay, so this brother right here, he posted, "Be the woman that'll help fill out job applications, the woman that'll help open up a bank account just to save and get him on his feet, the woman that'll tell him right from wrong, the woman that'll plan things to do just to keep him out the streets, the woman that'll help him go from nothing to something, the woman that'll motivate him and make sure his head is always on straight. Be the woman that's down through it all." So this is what this brother, this is what he posted. I was in Derek's inbox and I said, "Hey man, this," and I shared it, and I said, "Nah, I'm good." But we want to go in depth about this because, and there's a lot to dissect with this because he shared a whole lot, and this can be very, very. It's a loaded post. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's much more to it, and we really want to go into this. But when I sent you this, Dex, what was your initial response and reaction to this post, man?
Well, first of all, for those who are catching us live on Facebook, if you have any comments, please feel free to post a comment, and if time permits, we definitely like to get your feedback concerning this. The first thing I thought when I saw this, Dominique, was, man, I laughed. I will be 100% honest with you. And I said, man, it sounds like he want a mom and not a woman. He doesn't want a girlfriend. It sounds like he's auditioning for someone to play the role of his mother. And so, truth be told, I still kind of feel that way. But I think, in preparing for this, I wanted to take another look at it, try to look at it from this brother's perspective. And for me, I think it speaks to, a lot of the relational standards that exist, in many ways in today's society. So hopefully, we'll get to that. But, my whole thing is I've always been a firm believer that couples should build together. Where I'm weak, my wife is strong, and where my wife is weak, I'm strong. We complement each other. And so, and I also believe that, couples can grow together. It's just, in my man's presentation right here, it looked like he was looking for something else other than a girlfriend. I said, man, he is placing a lot of responsibility on her. And so the first thought that really came to my mind is don't place the burden of motherhood on your girlfriend. She can nurture you, but she shouldn't have to raise you.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to look into initially is, because sometimes we're not too aware of this, but I want to know more about his upbringing, the relationship he had with his mother or whoever, the female figure in his life that raised him, whether it was his aunt, grandmother, mother, whatever the case may be, because typically, the dynamics in our family dynamics really shape what we are searching for, looking for, and even avoid as well, based upon what we did receive, what we didn't receive, perhaps, and we just going by what we seen in the post, perhaps that was the type of relationship he had with his mother. That was probably his upbringing. So that may make a little sense on why he has that type of expectation. We should also look into how, as men, how do we view a woman and what type of relationship are we really looking for? I think one of the things that's very, very important is dissecting that type of relationship, because that gives more context and more understanding why we view women the way we view women.
Exactly.
Not saying it's a positive or negative way. And when we really dissect, the type of love that we receive, the type of nurturing that we receive, the neglect that we probably experience and so forth, that'll probably make more sense why we move the way we move, why we speak the way we speak, and why we have the certain type of expectations on women and so forth.
Yeah, I'll be 100% honest with you. His post put me in the mind frame of one of my favorite movies, Baby Boy. Yeah, I'm like, man, this reminds me of Baby Boy, and truth be told, I know a lot of people who kind of have an interesting son-mother dynamic. My thing is that your relationship with your mother shouldn't be reflective of your romantic relationship with your girlfriend. I do believe that our moms are oftentimes our first introduction on how to treat a woman, but when we start to blur the lines of romantic relationships, as in this is how my mom treated me, I think we end up putting undue pressure on our girlfriend. That's not, or our wife, that's not their responsibility, Now, if you say, hey, I liked how my mom treated the man in her life, whether it be, your father or her boyfriend or, whatever that dynamic is, and, I look for something like that in my own relationship, that's one thing. But if you're starting to look towards how your mother treated you, and then you equate that to a romantic dynamic where now you expect your girlfriend to be like your mom, then you probably should stay at your mom's house. One of the things I think about this young man's post is that it just really sounds like he would really benefit from a mentor more than anything right now to kind of help model what structure looks like in some of these areas, when he was talking about somebody, who helped me fill out a resume and get me on my feet, you're placing too much of your own personal responsibility on somebody else. And if you're not careful, if you don't succeed in that area, now your girlfriend becomes your scapegoat if your success doesn't look like what you wanted it for yourself. If you look at the post, it really just looks like he's setting someone else up to be the fall person if he does not obtain the level of success that he wants for his own life.
Yeah, and I think, again, when you look at the post that we seen in, he's really speaking to expectations. And one of the biggest things about expectations is when we don't voice them. That's the biggest thing about expectations. Expectations are not necessarily wrong all the time, but what makes it pretty shaky and pretty conflicting is when we choose to not verbalize them. And not just verbalize them, but in the beginning of the dating stage, I really do believe that we need to be as transparent as possible.
Oh, definitely.
Obviously, trust plays a factor, in really developing that trust and so forth. But the more honest we are and the more transparent we are in saying like, look, this is what I'm expecting out of a woman, I think the better. You get what I'm saying? Because now what's really happening is the woman is really understanding what's in front of her.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? Because let's be honest, there's some women out there that'll do stuff like that. They'll do all these things that he's
True.
asking.
Very true.
And there's some women out here that really they're looking at this like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm supposed to be his helpmate. You get what I'm saying? We hear that a lot, being a helpmate. So, and that's what essentially what he's referring to. But there's got to be what we're really addressing is the load, and not just the load, but does the expectation line up with the person? Once again, look, there are some women that will do all these things.
Yeah.
And if you have that expectation, well, I mean, kudos to you.
Yeah.
There are some women that's all like, bro, you on your own.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And if you have that expectation on that woman, you got to understand, brother, did you have that conversation in the beginning? Because these are a lot of things that we can really avoid and decrease from happening if we have these conversations. I'm not the one signing off on this, but one of the things that I really want us to do as men is really begin to verbalize what our expectations are. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Whatever the case, because that really helps our partners in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, so, let's, as you and I have had this conversation before about relationships, super important that you highlight your expectations in a relationship up front. The thing about the help meet conversation, your girlfriend, especially in a new relationship, doesn't have the responsibility of being your helpmate. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're saying, hey, you got to do all this, that's somebody who you've agreed to come into this relationship with. Now, I will say this, I'm trying not to read too much into what he's saying. I think he just chose one end of the spectrum as it relates to his expectations. I'm choosing to read into it by saying, hey, look, I want to be in a relationship with a woman who really just motivates me to be the best, who can help bring out and stimulate the best in me. Nothing wrong with that. However, I just want to also say this, that be mindful that you're not placing the responsibilities that belong to you on somebody else, and you're making it their job to ensure that you are in your best position. That's not their job. That's your responsibility. When you come into a relationship with somebody, you're saying, hey, look, what is it that you want to build? This is what I want to build. Are we compatible in this area, and can we do it together? But if I'm just surrendering all of my responsibilities as far as how I'm supposed to live life on somebody else, and once again, I don't succeed, I'm looking at you to place all my blame on. When the reality is I never had my stuff together to begin with. And so I just want to put that caution out there.
Yeah, most definitely. And don't get me wrong, to have a partner in your life that's willing to, push you, encourage you, motivate you. And maybe when you are busy, they'll run out and do something for you. Maybe when you are sick, they're able to be there for you and do X, Y, and Z for you. Maybe if for whatever reason, you're tied up in doing something, they're able to do X, Y, and Z for you. I really do believe that men should, seek out people, women who are encouraging and helpful and so forth. But the thing is, the last part that was very troubling, and, again, he said that, be there through it all.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Now, he may be talking about in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
He may be talking about in a marriage, whatever the case may be. You know, one of the things that we have to take responsibility of what you was just got done saying is our bad decisions.
Exactly.
When we make a bad decision, are we looking at ourselves? Are we saying, you know what, this is my partner's fault, or whatever the case may be? Are we saying, you know what, through any type of toxic behaviors and situations, my partner is supposed to look past this? And if this is the case, you know, this is putting, you know, a toxic level of responsibility and expectation on our partner. You know, we had an episode, and we want you to view that. I mean, listen to it. You know, struggle of, you know, and how we have adopted this mindset that it's okay to have this level of struggle in a relationship. We're not saying that there won't be any hard situations. We're not saying that there won't be any conflicts, but there's toxic that we just should not normalize in relationships. And that's what we're speaking to. I think this is a little too much responsibility, especially with the cherry on top of the last sentence. You know, I really do believe that having a woman that's willing to do some of these things is phenomenal, because there's no telling what the brother may be doing. I mean, the brother may be on his grind. He may be saying, like, look, I'm doing what I need to do, but hey, it may be some times where I may need you to do X, Y, and Z. You get what I'm saying? But be there through it all. I just need a little more context on that.
Yeah, hey man, listen. He said, you know, make sure my head is always on straight. You know, keep me out the streets. I'm like, hey, bro. Once again, hey man, you know, that's some personal accountability right there. You know, and so my question, you know, and you brought up the struggle of episode, and one of the things that came out in that conversation is that sometimes we so desperately want, and and I'm not even saying this for men. I'm just going to put this out here. I think sometimes people, let me say it that way, so desperately want to be in a relationship that they will settle for anything. We romanticize the idea of being in a relationship, even though it's not the right relationship. And so, and a part of that is that to avoid that is you got to make sure that you have a firm understanding of who you are before you get into that relationship, what your do's and don'ts, what they are before you get into that relationship. Because if you don't, you're just going to set yourself up for frustration. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment. And then ultimately, you know, you're going to lose out on some years or, you know, weeks, days, whatever, in a relationship that was doomed before y'all even started. And so, you know, we as men, once again, I can't speak for this young man. I don't know him. I won't say it's a generational thing either, because I don't know that definitively enough to say that's the case. But I'll just say that once again, you know, you don't want to put your personal responsibilities on someone else's shoulders and then hold them accountable for your own success. You know, if you're talking about building with another person, you know, some of the stuff you should already have kind of figured out or have a good idea of what direction you're moving in before you ask somebody to tag along and join you in that work. You know, once again, I'll look at it from a different vantage point concerning what he was saying. And maybe he's just saying, I want a woman who's going to bring out the best in me. Yeah. But you know, if you take face value what the guy was saying, it sounded like he wanted the woman to do it all for him, and you know, and that's just, you know, that's a bad recipe no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, one thing I do want to add too is in the comment section, you do have some guys that believe that, you know, everything is supposed to be on me. You get what I'm saying? And
which is not true either.
And I'm all for it, like me and Des keep saying, because we really don't want there to be any misunderstanding. we're all for taking responsibility. We're all for, grinding and getting out the mud and everything. But I think sometimes we can have a toxic understanding on support, especially from a woman, it's very helpful and very encouraging to have some type of motivation. You get what I'm saying? Because it doesn't matter how high your drive is, you're going to have days where you're not going to be motivated.
Exactly.
You're going to have days where you're not feeling your best self. You're going to have days where you just need someone to, give you some words of encouragement and so forth. And you may need someone just to come up behind you. Mm-hmm. I'm not perfect. There's some things that my wife do and she ought to look, you tripping right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, I appreciate that. You called me out on this. You get what I'm saying? Because we're not always, our head is not always on the swivel. Sure. You get what I'm saying? Again, there's a balance. You get what I'm saying? And when you get into the mode where you're not taking responsibility and you're looking up to your partner as if, it's all on them and there's a toxic level of responsibility, that really can create a toxic relationship and situation. Again, on top of all that, we have to understand the importance of verbalizing our expectations in the beginning. Because you just never know what type of relationship, based upon what you want and what they want, does that really line up? And that's something that you can find out in the beginning. Like we said before, there's some women out there that's looking at this post and showing their shoulders like, I don't see anything wrong with that. You get what I'm saying?
Put me in, coach.
And in that situation, with that brother with his mindset and that woman with her mindset, it may be a wonderful, healthy relationship. Who knows? You get what I'm saying? But that last part, being through it all and always keeping my head, intact, is like, brother, I think what you're doing is you're requesting something else, and I think you have to be very, very careful and mindful of that. You get what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I think there's this myth. We have to dismiss this myth that only women need support and motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Because we also need motivation as well.
Yeah, somebody once told me if someone has said it all, say no more. So I think you highlighted. Let there be balance. Have the conversation up front, and it sounded like this brother is open to having this conversation up front, and there will probably be some young lady who will gladly take that offer, but the reality is that I always want to be a proponent of healthy relationships.
Most definitely,
and I hope for his sake, apart from relationships, it just sounds like some accountability is needed. At the end of the day, you don't want to place that burden on somebody else. Those are some things that you can handle on your own. But listen, as Dominique mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about relationships here. There was an interesting comment or post that was made earlier, and I think we're going to give some attention to that next week concerning marriage and rape in marriage. Is that such a thing? So we just, as always, definitely appreciate you all for joining us, and we're looking for any comments. What say ye concerning this young man? I might be a little too traditional in my thought process as it relates to him. I think he probably should just spend some time in an alone season, just kind of figuring out, who he is, what I'm saying, and what he wants his life to look like. But hey, I might just be a little rigid, so what do y'all say concerning this? Is this acceptable in 2019, soon to be 2020?
Most definitely, man. But we really appreciate you all joining us. Those of you that's not familiar with our website, please visit womenopenup.com. We have a great university, great courses on there. We will be launching and releasing some more information of some webinars that we're going to be hosting and presenting this month. So we're really excited about that. And also, once again, we're real big on how we take care of ourselves, our mental health. And we have created a course in a book, Stressed and Burnt Out, the playbook for male self-care. And the thing is, we don't do a good job with taking care of ourselves for various reasons. We want to dismiss the myths, the misconceptions on how we take responsibilities of our own health, mental health, and what does that look like, and why is that a struggle? It's more to it than just telling men to do X, Y, and Z, but there's a reason why we have that burden. There's a reason why we take on that level of responsibility, and there's a reason why we look at self-care the way we look at it. So we did produce a phenomenal, thorough playbook for the guys on self-care and mental health care as well. And so you can easily go on womenopenup.com and go to Amazon and search for that. And once again, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
Before I go out, listen, if you are looking for an opportunity to sponsor your services, your products, look no further than our platform, When Men Open Up. We would love to get your services and your products put before thousands of people in our viewing audience. And so there's the information on your screen. You can also inbox us at When Men Open Up, info at whenmenopenup.com if you would like more details concerning this opportunity to sponsor our show.
Most definitely. And again, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique Bond.
And I'm Dexter Pagans.
And we are out. Join us next week. Thank you so much.